When Priya came home from work on a Thursday in October, the lock on her apartment had been changed. Taped to the door was a notice declaring the unit temporarily uninhabitable due to structural concerns. There was no building inspector's report. There was no prior notice. The landlord had been trying to get Priya out of her rent-controlled unit for 14 months because the market rate tenant who wanted it would pay $900 more per month. What he didn't know was that Priya had been recording everything since month 3.
The recordings began after the first suspicious maintenance request, when the landlord had sent workers to repair the water heater without prior notice, and the workers had spent more time in the apartment than any water heater repair required. Priya installed a doorbell camera that same week, and 2 interior cameras, all recording continuously to cloud storage. Over 11 months, she accumulated 847 gigabytes of footage and audio, documenting 14 separate incidents of entry without notice and 3 conversations where the landlord had explicitly discussed wanting her out.
The illegal lockout triggered 3 separate legal processes simultaneously. First, an emergency injunction petition filed by Priya's tenant rights attorney within 24 hours seeking immediate restoration of access. Second, a formal complaint to the city's rent board documenting the illegal lockout and 14 incidents of unlawful entry. Third, a civil lawsuit for wrongful eviction, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The landlord had retained an attorney expecting a standard unlawful detainer process. He had not expected someone who had been legally documenting him for 11 months.
The emergency injunction was granted in 48 hours. Priya was back in her apartment before the weekend. The rent board process took 7 months and resulted in a finding of substantial violations, illegal entry, harassment, and retaliatory conduct, along with a recommendation of rent reduction and the landlord's loss of right to evict for cause for 2 years. The civil lawsuit took 14 months to settle because the landlord's attorney kept requesting continuances after reviewing the footage.
The settlement covered 3 times the monthly rent for each of the 14 unlawful entries under California Civil Code 1940.2, general damages for the lockout and harassment period, and attorney's fees. The total, $47,200. The rent-controlled apartment remained Priya's. The market rate tenant the landlord had been trying to place never moved in. The landlord sold the building 18 months later, reportedly because the 2-year eviction restriction had made the units difficult to refinance.
The detail that drives this story is timing. Priya didn't call an attorney the day the lock was changed. She had already spoken to an attorney 9 months before that to understand exactly what documentation she needed and what it would be worth if she needed it. The lockout wasn't a crisis she had to recover from, it was a trigger she had been prepared for. The difference between being unprepared and prepared in that situation was 11 months of cloud storage.
Priya still lives in that apartment. The monthly rent is still well below market rate. The landlord who tried to force her out lost more than the $900 per month premium he was chasing. He lost the building. The camera footage that made the difference cost $180. The attorney consultation that told her exactly what to document cost $250 for an hour. The total investment was $430. The return was $47,200, and the apartment she already had. That is the long game. Subscribe.